Hello and welcome to Off With Their Headlines. I am your co-host, Meredith Constant, joined by the gorgeous, the beautiful, the soon-to-be bride, Amanda Matta. Hey, Amanda.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Hi.
Are you in the part of wedding planning where mentioning the wedding is actually not great?
Yeah, so we're under 50 days out, but we're not at the point where we're doing like the follow-up calls with vendors yet because they want to wait until it's like 2 weeks before to finalize everything. So I'm just here like, but I need a timeline and I need a spreadsheet and I need a packet to give to my coordinator who happens to be my neighbor, who very graciously was like, I'll just come and wrangle people all day for you.
That's
Literally
beautiful.
at the top of my packet, it says in all caps, bold, red letters, do not ask Amanda any questions or she will cry. If you need to ask a question, here is a chart, and I made like a little grid of people you can ask. It's organized by what type of question, okay, they will have and who to ask and then their phone number. And Shane is at the top, and we role played the other day what questions people might ask him.
My God.
This
that
is how committed I am to
iconic.
preserving my peace as a bride. And I don't think it's Bridezilla territory. I'm compartmentalizing at this point.
I think it's super fair. It's not like you're saying you have to wear this or,
No,
you know,
I am
whatever.
so chill.
You're just
when
like,
it comes
don't talk
what
to me.
People can wear. My dress code, I said dressy casual. I just said look nice, you know?
That's literally what you said, because I reached out to you and I
Yeah.
said, what does this mean, Amanda?
Yeah. And I tried to like explain it below, but I'm so chill in most regards because I don't want relationships to be ruined because of this wedding due to some trauma that I have, that I'm just taking it all on myself. And boy, howdy, is my Google Drive suffering because of it.
Oh, man. I really went there with you. But
Anyway,
I will say, Cool, Calm, and Collected was you last week. Thank you so much for covering the entire episode. I enjoyed it so
it was
much.
so fun.
I almost tried to talk back to you and I forgot we weren't recording together, but I just feel like you deeply needed that moment to unleash on Richard Eden, and I was so happy for you. It felt cleansing.
So can I tell you, after I recorded and like uploaded that episode, I listened back to it because we're good podcasters, right? And I want to make sure everything's good to go. That night, I had a Richard Eden dream.
No.
Where he had seen, or someone had sent him, or like Twitter was ablaze because someone sent him my video. And so he was responding to like things that weren't the point of that video. Like nowhere did he engage with the, hey, are you dumb? Because she did wear a British designer to the British Fashion Awards. It was all like straw man arguments and whataboutisms. And I woke up grinding my teeth because that man is my like content nemesis.
You cannot get TMJ disorder because of Dick Eden, okay?
I know.
Moving on, what a great start. As you guys know, we have bonus content and early ad-free video episodes over on our Patreon, patreon.com/offwiththeirheadlines. If you would like videos, but a week later you don't want to pay, that's fine. They're over on YouTube. We also have a couple of changes going on right now because the gods, and in this case, I mean Harry and Meghan, tend to drop news on Mondays. And we were recording on Mondays, and that has not worked out well. We finally were like,
to the point where like,
well, what are we doing? Why are we recording on Monday?
This isn't going to stop. And the definition of insanity is just doing the same thing and hoping that something changes.
Yeah, so we decided we're changing up our schedule so that we can release episodes closer together so that what you're getting is a little more topical. It's not days later. It's maybe a day or two later after the news has come out. And with that said, some of our longer deep dives, our thematic episodes, stuff like that, we're really going to save for our Patreon and just start offering more bonus content and stuff like that. So we do have plans to talk about Princess Diana's media coverage before and after her death over on Patreon later this month or the beginning of next month. Time has no meaning, but definitely go and check that out if you're interested.
And I think this will just let us be more agile in the main episodes. We'll be able to cover more of what's happening actually in the media, and we can venture outside of the royal sphere from time to time. So if we do get stuck in the trenches of silly season with like no content at any point, not that I think that that's likely, nope, but we'll be more nimble and able to kind of pivot through that. Let's actually like be proactive about this.
Yes.
The content, our signature style will not be changing. It's more about when we look at stories and how many stories we try to fit in one episode.
Yeah. Exactly. So why don't we kick it off with burying the lead? Amanda, you brought this story this week.
I did because I had seen it. Actually, this is a moment for me to say I never understand why tabloids release covers for a certain date 2 weeks in advance of that date. Do you know why they do this? For context, what I'm talking about is People Magazine's August 25th cover was released at least a week and a half ago.
My guess is to drum up interest and potential sales to get people who maybe would just read the article online to actually read it in print version. I'm also not sure. I know for Tatler this is the case, but sometimes stories will come out early online so people can start reading them then, do
Mm.
that advertising money and get people interested. And then it comes out later in the, magazine format. So that is what I think is happening here. Although I
It's
will say
like,
I got this People magazine. My
mhm.
cover does not have Diana. Diana's in a little corner. It's a
Interesting.
story
And it's the
about,
August 25th issue?
yeah, it's
Huh.
that story.
People Magazine's August 25th cover is what I wanted to bring for Burying the Lead today because it's just an annual event at this point, which I really don't love. I'm going to call it RIP Diana season, is what we're now moving into. The end of August,
Yep.
beginning of September. And I don't like seeing it formalized in this way because what are we doing? So, People's cover for August 25th, new details. Diana's sons divided. And it's a picture of Diana flanked by William when they're like preteens to teenage years. And so Diana's sons divided 28 years after her death. Not a landmark year, not an anniversary that we typically celebrate. So we're just capitalizing at this point.
Yes.
One brother is preparing to be king, the other has stepped away to protect his peace. Prince William and Prince Harry remain devoted to their mother and painfully estranged. Diana would have tried to act as a peacemaker, and that it's two pictures of Harry and William. William is grimacing, that Kermit the Frog face that he makes when he's being serious, and Prince Harry kind of just like looking at the camera, like just
I'm
blank
doing the
stare.
faces for all of you on video.
It's
This
pursed
yeah.
lips and yeah, not my favorite.
Can I ask you something?
Please.
Why this story now? This could be written word for word for last year, for the year before, for the year before that. We're going to do this at 29 years too. Thing. Just reading that headline and the subhead, this is just a tired story. And do we really know what Diana would have done? And why does it matter? I don't see the reason for this story. I feel like we're trying to find new ways to talk about Diana, but it's been 28 years and it's getting harder. Instead of just doing some sort of remembrance or finding some sort of different angle. People magazine write about how the British monarchy has co-opted Diana's legacy as if she was the shining beacon for the firm when she was seen as a threat once she was divorced from Charles. Like, let's talk about that.
It's a Simon Perry article, exclusive. Princess Diana would have tried to act as peacemaker. So what that says to me is they had an exclusive quote that happened to talk about Diana.
Yes.
And wanted to use it as a springboard for just rehashing Harry and William's quote unquote feud. So it starts with on July 16th, as the 28th anniversary of his mother, Princess Diana's death loomed, Prince Harry took a walk through a minefield. And I'm just like, I don't think that would have been on his mind. Like, that's closer to her birthday than her death. But like, okay, go off, King. Her birthday's July 1st. And it's just a way to update us. Well, Harry's honoring her legacy in this way. William's honoring her legacy in this way with the homelessness issue, which I know you have thoughts on. And so they've gotten Andrew Morton to talk to them, Diana's biographer. So he's reflecting on, we all remember the days when Harry and William were joshing with one another, and it all seemed set for their relationship and the future. That Harry, as Diana always used to say, would be William's wingman. It's a great loss for the monarchy. They rehash, they go back to 2020. I'm not going to read that part for you. While Harry has spoken openly about his hope for reconciliation, insiders say his calls and messages to William have gone unanswered. Then we bring Morton back in to talk about how Diana always used to say she had two boys for a reason. The younger would be there to support the older. There's no doubt that she would have tried to act as a peacemaker. That's it. That's the story. They're just getting commentators in and calling it an exclusive. I really feel like we've lost the definition of the word exclusive, much like we've lost the definition of the word downsizing. Spoiler for later in the episode.
Oh, yes. Also, with this piece, it leaves out what Harry has written in Spare, that the perception that he and William were super close as teens and young adults and spending all this time together actually wasn't true. And that there were issues before Meghan entered the picture. And I think to go off this premise that she would have been a peacemaker, you just can't do that because you don't know what would have happened if Diana had lived. If she had maybe moved to the United States, would Harry have left earlier? Would she have been a voice for William to not get totally sucked into this institution? I just don't even think it's worth playing this game because so many other things have to like not happen in
Right.
order to get to this point. It doesn't even make sense to hypothesize to me. It's really bad fan fiction. Save it for LiveJournal.
It's like emotional porn for Gen Xers in a lot of ways.
Yep.
Robert Lacey's quoted, Sally Bettle Smith is quoted, just all these people who are willing to go on the record and say, oh, isn't it a shame what's happened with these brothers? And the reporters are just, oh yeah, that's good. Write it down. It's just
Let's use that.
Okay.
Yeah. And now we have
it.
an exclusive. I can't wait for this story next year.
Seriously.
The 20th anniversary.
People magazine, props to them because they have an article from 2023 on their website, all of Diana's People magazine covers through the years. It's an unflinching look. And when they say all of the covers, it's all of the covers.
I'm scrolling right now,
including the one right before her death where they were talking about Di's new guy. And I find that a better way to acknowledge your own role in shaping her legacy.
Definitely. And we'll talk about on the Patreon when we get into this, some of the, because of printing and because of the way press works, some of the articles that could not be pulled in time once Diana died. And it is stark, the about face that the press does when it comes to Diana.
I will also note they have used this picture that's on the August 2025 issue before in 2007, 10 years later, Diana's boys, how her death shaped their lives.
It's the picture of Diana where it's really just their faces, and it almost looks like it's a JCPenney picture. They're all wearing black and staring at the camera. Harry's leaning on Diana's shoulder. You know, it's that
Trying
photo.
to see if it's in here any other time, because that would be funny if they like.
It is a classic photo that you see a lot.
Hey, they licensed it. I don't know.
Okay.
We might as well use it. But we all know, I think, what you're waiting for us to discuss today. That is the story that broke this past weekend of William and Kate moving house once again. This was broken in The Sun. It was quickly picked up by other media outlets who all got confirmation from a Kensington Palace rep that the Wales family plans to move house by the end of the year. Sources are saying by Christmas, they hope to be out of Adelaide Cottage on the grounds of Windsor and relocated minutes away to Forest Lodge, still on the grounds of Windsor in Windsor Great Park. So lots to talk about with this story, not just because of the facts, but because of how it's being spun and reported and preempted in the press. Meredith, where should we start?
So as you said, Amanda, The Sun broke the story. It was Matt Wilkinson, who is the Royal Rota representative for The Sun. He also was the person that broke the story with TMZ of Kate and William spotted out and about in the farmer's market back in 2024. So here is the headline: Throne Sweet Home. William and Kate moving to 8-bed, in quotations, forever home in Windsor as they plan fresh start after Princess's cancer treatment. Here's the subhead, though. This petty, petty man. Unlike Harry and Meghan, Wills and Kate are funding all renovations themselves and will have no live-in staff. Can I just pause for a second? William has a duchy. William has private income, which he doesn't tell us what he pays taxes on. And we know we be charging prisons and stuff like that for use. Yeah, you should fund your own renovations. And Harry and Meghan, yes, it was originally funded through the sovereign grant or King Charles? Like, they got money to do that, but they paid it back. And as far as I know, they never got that money back from the renovations they did at Frogmore Cottage. The other point I want to make is this no live-in staff, which we are really pushing, because the whole thing with this article is, and all the reporting really is, look how relatable they are. Look how small our royal they are. They're just going to live in a mansion. They're not going to live in a palace. It's incredible. The no live-in staff,
even though they still have a palace apartment.
Yeah, they have 20 rooms, by the way. People,
it's 4 floors.
We're not talking apartment like the flat you shared in college.
If you look up, you can look up a diagram of Kensington Palace, and it does a really good job. I think it was the Daily Mail that published it way back when. They did a good job of highlighting what parts of the palace belong to which royals. Will and Kate's, it looks like a townhome, like the part that's highlighted. It's 4 floors, there's elevators, there's a gym. We'll get into that in a minute because I think we forget very quickly that the tone when they renovated that residence was very different than where
Very
we are
different.
now.
And then plus we have Amner Hall in Norfolk. So
Mhm.
there's this house. The no live-in staff, that doesn't mean they don't have staff that they pay. That just means they don't live there. But reportedly, and again, this is from the Daily Mail, so take it with a grain of salt. I just find it interesting that the Daily Mail is reporting this at all. Is that there are nearby cottages and houses that staff will live in. This isn't that impressive. It's just, it feels a little bit like Charles and the decommissioned royal train,
Oh,
where the
yeah.
royals are saying,
Well,
look how relatable, look at this cost saving stuff. And it's like, okay, this actually isn't really doing anything.
even when recently we talked about Camilla on Wafiq Saeed's yacht, I had people, well, what's she supposed to do? The royals got rid of the yacht Britannia. What's she supposed to do? Poor Camilla, she can't have a yacht vacation if she doesn't. It's like, oh my God. Oh my God. Why are we defending these poor royals? They
We've
don't
lost
have
the
their own
thread.
yacht anymore.
But what do you make of the argument that we are getting? It seems like the argument for this move, this
Mhm.
actual forever a home, is number one, it is a fresh start for Kate. Like, what do we
So-
think about that?
I'm of a few minds here. I think it's absolutely understandable and I think acceptable for Will and Kate if they want to say, hey, we had tough times at Adelaide Cottage. The Queen passed away as soon as we moved there. We had to step up into these roles. Arguably, we didn't really step up as much as we were supposed to. But there was a lot of pressure on us. And then Kate had her cancer treatment. We want a fresh start. I think that is absolutely understandable. Where they lose me is saying it's going to be their forever home and expecting that to carry some weight like it does for people like you and me. Because to put this in context, Shane and I talk about buying our first home. Right. And we both are of the understanding that it's not going to be our forever home. It's going to be a starter home. To me, a forever home is something you work up to, you save, you make sacrifices. And like maybe I'm putting this lens on it because of my own bias of not being a billionaire. But I think to co-opt almost that language of a forever home in the media, and in the briefings. Nowhere are we suggesting that Will and Kate themselves have said this. This is palace sources talking to the media, right? But to co-opt that language of a forever home because you know what it's going to evoke. Oh, they've struggled as a family. They're finally settling in together. It's their almost like they're happily ever after. The epilogue to this long struggle that they've had as a royal couple. That's where they start to lose me. And then they start rewriting history and I'm gone. I am no longer on board. The son, this is the first time I've ever seen this. When we're talking about the move to Forest Lodge being for the long term, their forever home, they then slot in. The son understands the move from Kensington Palace in London to Adelaide Cottage 3 years ago, which also isn't quite accurate. They still have Kensington Palace apartment 1A. They didn't move out into it. Anyway, the move to Adelaide Cottage 3 years ago was partly designed to test life in Windsor and see if it worked for them as a family. Never once have I seen that, because if you said that in 2022, yeah, they're moving, they still have a palace house, they still have their country home, and they're taking on a cottage as a test case. This is just a test run. That would have been so out of touch.
Yeah.
They never would have gotten away with it. This is the only time where you can use it because it puts into perspective. Well, yeah, they're moving into an 8-bedroom home, but Adelaide Cottage was really a stepping stone all along. We've never acknowledged that because it's a bad look.
The other rewrite that I can't get over, and this is from an article I know we're going to get into, which is the Times, which had the most insane article about this move. But something that they put in there was the fact that, there's always been rumors that, William and Kate had their eye on Royal Lodge, but actually Kate never wanted to live there. And that was never a thing. What? In what
Says who?
world? In what world? Because all we have heard and seen is that William and Kate had been vying for that property. They wanted that property and Andrew wouldn't get out. In fact, it's even alleged in Andrew Lowney's book entitled, which we will talk about, that actually Prince Edward wanted that house. But
interesting.
Prince Andrew decided instead of the Sunny Hill house, which was built, the first royal house built in over 100 years, he was just gonna get rid of that and he was gonna take the Royal Lodge, which, oh my God. I just think those two younger brothers really hate each other.
I don't remember the last time I've seen them in the same place.
I think there's a reason.
Now I'm remembering being in the same room as Prince Edward.
Okay, don't make me jealous. You know I love that man.
That man would never want Royal Lodge. And what does it have, 31 bedrooms?
It's
That's not his style.
ridiculous.
And it's not Kate's style either, according to Shane Watson, which is a new name for me at the Times.
I've seen this name before. I don't
Is
feel
this
like
a
he
silly
does.
season like effect?
That's what I'm thinking.
Is he stepping in?
It feels like silly season because this was reported on Sunday, and typically the Sunday Times, Roya Nika is the one that writes the articles. I didn't see anything from her, and maybe this was a fill-in. I've seen this name before. I cannot remember where.
Before you read this headline, can I read you one that he wrote in 2024,
Yes,
last
please.
August?
Yes, please.
Oasis, parties, drinking. How I spent my single years in the 90s. It was an era of glamour, camaraderie, and hedonism, and Shane Watson was in the middle of it, living it up like Kate Moss and wolf whistling Posh and Bex. Huh?
What?
He wrote a profile piece on the 90s.
But like him.
For the Times last year.
Maybe this is silly season. This has got to be, because there's no other example. Because the headline is, Kate is downsizing and living life on her own terms now. This man tries to make an argument for why downsizing works. We are going to go into why it doesn't. Something else I want to point out, though, that I think gets missed is the whole living life on her own terms now. We have always been told that when you enter the monarchy, it is the crown first. You need to work within the parameters. It is not
Very
about
recently, I was told that by Dick Eden.
Yeah, it's not about doing things on your own terms. That's not how this works. This article basically says, yeah, Kate's going to do things on her own terms because apparently at 43, you realize a lot of things. And you realize, quote, the difference between duty and loyalty and pointless bollocks foisted on you in the name of good form, etiquette, and keeping other people happy. Etiquette doesn't matter anymore? That's news to me.
News to Meghan.
Seriously.
For sure. This is wild. And the implication of it so quickly becomes, is Kate the only one moving into Forest Lodge? Because I saw, I don't ascribe to this belief, but the argument could be made. Is this code for William's not going to live at Forest Lodge with Kate? Are they actually separating? Which I don't think is true.
I don't think it's true either. I just think
it's something that has been said by people.
I think Kate
Shane Watson's not helping.
Has won something here. And I'm not saying that
it's not a she won the breakup situation.
No. I think because even articles positing this as she's going to do it her own way, she's going to do what she wants. I mean, it's kind of code for what we've heard is that we're doing less engagements. We're being more thoughtful with our engagements.
Impactful. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't really think Kate wants to work. And I'm not even saying that's a bad thing. I mean, it's kind of like you're going to be queen. I don't think she wants to work. And I just don't think that she is still like healing from maybe cancer is going to, and I only say maybe cancer because it's never been confirmed, is going to work. It can't work forever. I think I got another year or two on this. And then what are they going to do? Like, how are they going to justify potentially a queen not doing that many engagements?
Yeah, they're going to fall back on, well, she always wanted to get the kids through school, because that's even something that Omid Scobie reported in Endgame as always being the goal. And I think that's pretty understandable. Yeah. And when you actually look back at her and William's trajectory as working royals, there was a slow start for Kate because she was having babies. Understandable. Then there was the slow start because of them being in nursery, then them going off to primary school or whatever. And I think much like COVID for a lot of employees in the US was a reset point where we're like, actually, we don't have to put up with going into the office every day. We can work remotely. I hate to say it, but I think the cancer treatment was for Kate that point where she was like, I can have it all. I can kind of have this raising the future of the monarchy role and still put out that I am dedicated to making an impact in my role. Like,
I also think
in that way, smart downsizing. In no way is 4 bedrooms to 8 bedrooms smart downsizing.
I also think that the relationship is such with the press and William and Kate. Kate can only do this and be on this trajectory if the press is going to buy in and cover her with the PR talking points from the palace. But let's quickly get into why this is considered downsizing. And this paragraph killed me. And I know, Amanda, you especially had something to pull from this. Quote, what they're doing here is smart downsizing as opposed to dumb downsizing. Something, he doesn't write that, something only the rich can do, but that also puts them right in step with the mood of the sustainability conscious middle class population.
Somebody get Clippy in here to rewrite that sentence because it's not making sense to me.
Clippy, bring them back. This is so nefarious to me
Yeah. Something only the rich can do. May that type of downsizing find me quickly. You know what I'm
Please.
saying?
But also puts them right in step with the mood of sustainability conscious middle class population because they're not a part of that. And to me, that feels like a little bit like greenwashing, a little bit portraying you are of the people, but it's just an act. Like,
It's
that's
so
what you're saying.
shaky.
It's
I don't
gross.
even have to be facetious here to like make fun of it because the next sentence is they'll still have their 20-room flat 1A at Kensington Palace, of course, and Amner Hall in Norfolk. And Forest Lodge is an 8-bedroom house. So, yes, it is a step up from their 4-bedroom cottage, but still, if you're writing for the Times and you're ending sentences, but still, and just like relying on the audience to get it, you should not be writing for the Times.
I'm just surprised that this is from the Times, to be honest.
It's crazy.
And then the argument that a lot of tabloids and stuff have gone into is, well, it's not like he has 31 bedrooms like the Duke of York. And maybe it's just that, like, no one should have these kind of houses. It's not really a
Right.
competition. Maybe no one needs these size of these homes and the upkeep that they need.
Here's the clincher. Whatever way you look at it, it's downsizing. They've chosen to make their permanent family residence where they plan to stay even after William ascends to the throne. That's new information. A relatively modest house rather than a royal palace. So maybe he's saying it's theoretical downsizing. It's
Yeah,
downsizing in vibes only.
yeah. What do you? It's like premeditated downsizing because
I had some
what?
people in the comments section of my TikTok video that I made on this saying, because for whatever reason we have to defend the royals, maybe the floor plan is fewer square feet at Forest Lodge than Adelaide Cottage. And my answer to that so quickly is, did you check? Or is that just vibes as well?
Guys, why do we want to protect rich people? They don't need our protection.
They're
Like
not
when
going
you're
to pick you.
arguing on the side of less transparency when it comes to finances, when it comes to anything, and not holding people in power accountable, what are we doing here?
Mm-hmm. And then I really love, and by the way, if they could get Andrew out of Royal Lodge, it is the last place on earth Kate would want to end up. Not just, but mainly for reasons of scale and style. I say Kate. Neither of them want the grandeur behind closed doors associated with royalty anymore, but you suspect that the shift is driven by Kate. Why?
This is so interesting. I mean, I'm thinking about it from this
Why does it have to be Kate?
because I think it's this idea that Kate is the steadying force behind William and that they are in lockstep. We love that word with the small r royal. And here's the way that domestically Kate is going to fulfill that role while William is doing the small r royal on more of an international global statesman, one could say. Plain.
If you read between the lines, though, this is such an insidious track record of scapegoating royal women, especially royal women who
Good
marry into the
point.
family.
Yep.
I think back to something like Diana dragging Charles into the modern age, like by his toes, right? I think of Camilla being portrayed as Charles' moderation force now, as he's like going through cancer treatment, and she's the one telling him, darling, you're doing too much, slow down.
We have to
Or when
regulate the men
he's-
in our lives.
When he's having a meltdown over his leaky pen, right? She's there. Yes, it's horrible. The women in this family always get painted into exactly what you said, these parentified roles
Yes.
over their royal spouses as a way to like make them more palatable. And I hate that this is now what we're doing for Kate. It started honestly with her cancer treatment when the Photoshop incident happened. And do you remember the photo was originally credited to William?
Yes.
But then when we were scrutinizing it, well, Kate's the one, like many amateur photographers, who dabbles in photo editing. It's like, well, she wasn't credited as the photographer until people had an issue with it.
When they put out that tweet on behalf of Catherine, kind of apologizing for it, I couldn't believe it. I was,
Yeah.
but I
Sorry
could.
for the confusion.
But I could because it doesn't matter. Even if you're Kate, if you marry into the royal family, you are expendable. You are the first person that they will throw under the bus because you are married into the family. You are not blood.
So that's the flip side of this narrative, right? Of Kate, while evidently the most obliging of royal wives, has entered a new phase of her life. She wants to live as normally as possible. She's no longer prepared to fake the role of princess, and this house move is part of a bigger shift towards normalcy away from the stuffy world her husband's mother inhabited.
Ooh.
Is that not just kind of the same thing? Like Kate's not dragging this time, Kate's propelling her family into relatability. But if that goes sideways, it becomes so insidious so quickly.
And she's the one that gets blamed. She'll be
Right.
the one that gets blamed if this doesn't
Right.
turn out well. Because here's the thing that I found incredibly telling, and I cannot wait to hear your thoughts. The Daily Mail finally writes about this.
Yes.
Right? They finally write about it, and the person who writes about it is Rebecca English. She is the Royal Rhoda domestic captain. And she's also been reported to be in Camilla's pocket, so just something to think about. Here is the headline. William and his family will live in Forest Lodge even when he is king, reveals Rebecca English. Well, did you reveal it? I thought the Sun revealed it. Anyway, so what will become of Buckingham Palace? And this is where I said, she's asking the questions that I have. Why is this happening? Because what she says, and this is what I think is most revealing near the end, quote, however, there are likely to be growing questions over the viability of their London base, not least because the Kensington apartment was refurbished in 2014 at the cost of £4.5 million to the public purse and is now barely used a handful of times a year. Might the Waleses be persuaded to use a suite of rooms in Buckingham Palace instead, allowing the Kensington apartment to be rented out commercially? It might make sense, say some.
Interesting.
And then hold on, this part, it's less concerning to many than the future of Buckingham Palace, the sovereign's official London residence, not least because of the £369 million of public funds that is currently being invested to refurbish it. At present, no members of the royal family reside at the palace. And what she says is, without a king there or even in proximity, will people feel this is justified? And then at the end, she writes, as one insider says, the late queen said she had to be seen to be believed. I just hope that the Prince of Wales can find the right balance between raising his family away from the public glare at Windsor with the presence required of him as a future and eventual head of state. This is the first time where I'm like, Camille Grammer, somebody said it. And now we said it. Because that's what I have been wondering. At what point are people going to say, how is he going to be all the things that he promises that he will be as king?
Right. From a private family home in Windsor Great Park. It's a great question. And I will say the Buckingham Palace renovation, I think it's, justifiable because the infrastructure there was last worked on in the 1950s.
Well, yeah, no, there's work that needs to be done.
And there's staff offices there, even when the monarch is not in residence now. Yes, the monarchy do get some undue credit for opening the doors of the palace to the public. And aren't they great for boosting tourism? It's like, calm down. They're only opening the doors in like July and August and a little bit of September. But yeah, I think that's a viable question to ask. Jenny Bond, another royal commentator, was also quoted as asking those questions in, I think, The Express, which surprised me a little bit as well. But yeah, the tide might be starting to turn on just accepting what William is telling us about how he's going to operate as king.
Do you think? I think that I'm wondering too if this was an opening to finally start picking a little bit at William and really William. It's not Kate. This article is actually focused on William's move.
It should be William.
I agree.
It reminded me, and I'm so glad that this record is still here. This historical record is still reflecting this. It reminded me of 10 years ago when Will and Kate were refurbishing Kensington Palace. Did you look back at any of this coverage?
I did not see this, so I'm excited.
Fantastic. Here's a Rebecca English headline from 2014, okay? Your bill to refurbish Kate's palace is now £4 million. New kitchen, nursery, and several bathrooms quadruples the cost.
Wow. It's Kate's home. Wow, how the tables turn.
Royal couple will be paying for all fixtures and fittings, carpets and furniture. One courtier insisted project was great value given former state of flat. Again, probably true. 1A used to be Princess Margaret's apartments. Like,
God.
Just the wear and tear alone.
You know what I mean? Smells like cigarettes and bad decisions.
That said, in 2014, the justification from a Kensington Palace official was that the taxpayers actually are getting great value over the official taxpayer-funded renovation, given the state of the crumbling apartment.
How is this a good investment for
Buckingham Palace said, when contacted by the Mail with the figures, that the Duke and Duchess say Kensington Palace is their one and only official residence where they will live for many years to come.
Stop it.
That is
Stop it.
10 years ago, their one and only official residence. Like, sure. So that's supposed to be where their staff is working out of officially. Still not true today because their staff is coming and going wherever they are, where they will live for many years to come. They didn't even make it 8 years before moving out.
They barely stay there anymore.
Yeah.
That is
Wow. Again, rich people are gonna rich, right? It's their money, whatever. The media coverage of it being so freely rewritten whenever it's needed is what really troubles me.
And also rewritten depending on which royal is in favor, which royals have a you can see in the press the relationship strengthening between William and Kate to the point where it's shocking that Rebecca English wrote this, and I'm even trying to think of why did she go there, Why?
Yeah, it was just that was the story 10 years ago. And it's very similar in a way to the Frogmore reporting, which got swept under the rug once Harry and Meghan were out of favor. Frogmore had been segmented into, I think, offices and like smaller living spaces because it was a grace and favor property. Harry and Meghan were converting it back into a single family home, essentially. That's kind of what was happening at Kensington Palace with the refurbishment 10 years ago, because staff were reportedly using buckets to catch rain from a leaky roof. There was no running water, and it had been used as office space since the death of Princess Margaret. Now it was being transformed back into a family home. So the pendulum swing of reporting on these residences in particular, because there's so much obfuscation from the royals, there's no transparency. That's the part that I'm equally fascinated by and disturbed by.
Me too. I do wonder, are we starting to see a shift, or is this Daily Mail piece in particular an outlier? Is it,
Yeah.
Are we going to kind of go back to form? But I just also think there's just never going to be accountability. And that's what gets me. It's not that people can't change their minds and decide, what, the Kensington apartments are not working for us, but there's never any follow-up.
I will say there's a little bit of a swing as well in the follow-up, because did you also see this from the Daily Mail? The Mail on Sunday were the first ones to break the two families having to vacate their own homes story. So the story is that two families on the Windsor Great Park estate. So this is Crown Estate property, meaning that the families living there would be tenants, essentially, of the Crown Estate. Two families were asked to vacate their homes so that Will and Kate could move into Forest Lodge, their forever home. So these are two families that were in cottages next to Forest Lodge. They are said to have been surprised at being asked to leave, but they were not served eviction notices, according to the Mail. And the tenants have moved to, this is the part that really gets me, they've moved to similar or better housing elsewhere in the estate. But still, being told to move out of their homes, what if that was supposed to be their forever
home? What if they loved that home? Also, they don't need to be served eviction notices. When the Crown says, need you to move, you're going to move.
You gotta move.
And that's what gets me, the people being like, oh, they're probably staying in much better places. That doesn't mean that they want it. You have no idea what's going on in these people's lives. That doesn't mean they wanted to move. That doesn't mean moving's easy.
Speaking of rewriting history, the Mail writes, the Mail on Sunday revealed in July that the Prince and Princess were considering upsizing to a much grander residence. Our scoop, however, was met with a degree of obfuscation by the palace. We just used the same word, me and the Mail. Aides initially attempted to steer this newspaper away from the story before clarifying that a move from Adelaide Cottage was not imminent. It is understood that after publication, rival reporters were dismissively told that it was a so-called silly season story. In fact, plans for a move were by then well advanced.
Oh my God. They just gave away the entire game. They gave away the entire game. They said not only was the palace lying, but they were trying to get us off the trail of this story, which actually ended up being true.
Yeah,
which makes you question all the other times that the palace has tried to get reporters off stories.
So the Mail reveals they understood one of the options considered by the couple was Fort Belvedere, which we also talked about, the magnificent Gothic revival mansion in Windsor Great Park, which was the favorite home of Edward VIII. The property had been leased to the family of late Canadian retail billionaire Galen Weston since the early 80s. The Mail understands that the family decided to renew their contract on the property earlier this year, which meant it was no longer available for the prince and princess. Then they get into Will and Kate shifting to Forest Lodge. Interesting they slipped that in there. Like the billionaire retail Canadian family decided to renew their contracts, so Will and Kate can't have this property, but these two other families are being relocated. Anyway, that's interesting to me that they slipped that in there.
That is too.
So this is by Daisy Graham Brown, investigative reporter, so
Yeah.
not the Royal Rhoda rep.
Yeah, I did notice that. We got someone new.
I'm going to say the tide is turning. I'm not going to say there will be more accountability, but the veil has parted slightly in this silliest of seasons.
We are having a hard time towing the line, it seems like. And it also, kind of tells you who has access to which royals, The other thing, too, that I noticed in the Rebecca English piece is that a well-placed source tells me that William will be taking an even more pragmatic approach to Buckingham Palace in the future, stressing that Forest Lodge will be his family's only long-term home. It does make me think if it's a family home, like, is there a chance that William stays at Buckingham Palace? Like, is he going to split his time at some point? Not saying that they're getting divorced or anything, but is the stress on a family home, does that mean that he is going to, does it leave a door open for spending more time at Buckingham Palace to say, hey, look, I'm making everyone happy?
Yeah, here's my read on it, right? Kensington Palace will remain the family's official London residence when you need the kids to be in London. Anne Hall, gifted as a wedding present by Queen Elizabeth, I think that's always going to be their private country family retreat. Maybe the Middletons can come stay with them. I think Forest Lodge is the place where they can entertain friends and family for a weekend. You can have James Middleton, Pippa Middleton, like other friends can come over. We talk about Kate being spotted picking out a 24-seater dining table in some of these stories. I think the implication there is like, this is where they're going to entertain. This is where they're going to have friends over. They love to compartmentalize with their residences, which I think does lend credence to what you're saying. Well, William's kingly residence is still going to be Buckingham Palace, but like that's going to be a small sliver of his life at that point.
That's definitely how I would spin it if I was trying to beat back these rumors that William maybe isn't doing enough and isn't going to be able to balance things. I also encourage people to look up this home because it's massive. Like, this is not a small home at
It's beautiful.
all. It's gorgeous.
It's a Georgian manor. It's brick. The Mail story about the two families having to vacate their cottages, it's kind of cheeky. They have Forest Lodge, Kensington Palace, and Anne Hall all like in the little header image, and they're all pretty much the same. You get a sense of what Will and Kate's taste is. It's these giant Georgian brick manors with like the window facade, and there's two wings on either side. And then you have the little inset picture of like gingerbread house Adelaide Cottage by comparison.
I think Adelaide Cottage is so cute.
It's adorable.
It is so charming to me. I love
there's
it.
a really great like watercolor of it, which is just like so beautiful. It's cute. Anyway.
So I was thinking we could transition briefly into a new segment that we are calling As Seen in the Comment Section, because sometimes
I'm excited.
We see some of the best stuff in the comment section. So this is on that Daily Mail piece. And one person wrote, I can't sleep at night worrying about Buckingham Palace. It will be so lonely while Will and Kate will only have 3 homes. That's a good one.
So sad.
That's a good one. And then somebody wrote a poem.
These people have too much time on their hands, first of all.
God bless you. So they write, every tourist in expectation visits of seeing the royal standard fly, behind which window the king sits, otherwise an institution to pass by. What? What, Edgar Allan Poe?
Wow.
What,
There
Robert
are layers
Frost?
to
What are we
that.
doing here?
I could do a whole analysis on that.
Right?
Poem.
I do. I honestly kind of want to break it up. These are better lyrics or poetry than anything in Diana the Musical. Because also, it's very interesting because it kind of feels like it's claiming that unless there's a royal in residence living there, people are just not interested. And it's just, but
right.
Have you heard of Versailles? You know what I mean?
That's my argument all the time.
It's actually interesting, too, because my super sleuth, Amy, kind of, looks around on Reddit and see what's happening. And even on
God
Reddit.
Bless. I don't want to do that.
No, God, I can't. Even on threads that are typically a little more pro-monarchy, pro-William and Kate, people are saying it's just getting patronizing at that point.
Yeah.
and just kind of a more pushback than maybe you'd expect. Kind of like,
Interesting.
come on, we're
Well,
rooting
because
for
it's
you,
so
but
soon after the last move,
I
2022
know.
to 2020. I'm still getting the chronology straight of like what happened in 2022 versus 2023 in Royal World. Like we're so close to that
Okay,
time period.
I have a theory. It's not based on anything. Do not run with this. If it is to be believed that Charles is worse off than we have understood, because remember,
Okay.
according to a Telegraph piece, he will not die of cancer,
He'll die with cancer.
which was the weirdest. Okay, anyway. So, what if they are doing this now to get settled before William might prematurely take the throne? That
So
is
you're saying like,
you know what I mean? Like,
so that nobody can come in and be like, well, you have to move to Buckingham Palace because you only have 4 bedrooms.
maybe that, but also maybe the idea that
Like they won't be able to move.
they will really
After?
have to wait a
Yeah.
while
Yeah,
because,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
the king can't pass away and then you're like, "And we're gonna move right now." You know?
Right. They already got flack for changing their titles on Twitter 2.5 seconds after the Queen's death was announced.
Which is, like,
it's not a good
rough.
look. Yeah, it was really rough.
There's one more comment that said, "They will pay a market rent to the Crown Estate from right pocket to left pocket." Nice trick. I did not think about that.
It's so true.
I did not think about it. Even
Yeah.
the Royal Lodge. Like, who's
Yeah.
Andrew paying rent to?
Yeah, his brother. It's very cyclical.
It's very weird. And also, like, let's say if people make the argument that the Crown Estate is the monarchies, it's actually, the name is misleading. Like, it's this country's. And I don't even care if Andrew isn't. He doesn't deserve. He deserves to be in an outhouse somewhere, far, far away.
That's too generous.
He deserves to be in that remote, destitute cabin that the Dursleys go to in the first Harry Potter. You know what I mean?
Rock in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
That's where he needs to be.
All right. Well, speaking of Andrew, Meredith came to me with an idea last week. The idea is no longer viable because she has bulldozed through the new biography of the House of York.
I had a tough week last week, and I thought I was supposed to finish the book by today.
Really?
Yeah. Listen, the brain,
So
we're not
the
functioning.
idea, as was pitched to me, was we would start a segment loosely titled like book club or what we're reading,
Critics Corner,
where we would like update each other and you, the listener, on the royal reads that we have going. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, because I just received the new book, Princess Margaret and the Curse,
Ooh.
An Inquiry into a Royal Life. This is by Meryl Seacrest. It's the new book that claims Princess Margaret had fetal alcohol syndrome. God bless. That's given away in the summary. So I'm not like spoiling it here. So I was like, oh my gosh, yes, you read Andrew Lowney's book about Andrew and Sarah. I will read this Margaret book and we will like update the people as we're reading.
I am so sorry.
Meredith texted me today. I finished the book.
I got really excited.
You know, I respect it. It just means we need a new segment.
Yeah, well, maybe I can follow rules next time. The reason I finished this book is because the stuff I really wanted to get to was at the end. So this book is by Andrew Lowney. It's entitled The Rise and Fall of the House of York. I will say, full stop, I take royal books like this with a grain of salt, right? I actually originally wasn't even going to read this, but then someone reached out to me and said, I don't know, you might want to look into this. And I will say, in the intro, he knows that everyone is going to be looking at the sources for this. He tells us that already they've tried to get litigious to stop the publication of this book, which is totally believable. So he lays out in every single section, he lays out who he talks to. And he also talks about the unnamed sources and the fact that a lot of people wouldn't talk to him, and the fact that his FOIA requests into Andrew's time as trade envoy were blocked, but he was able to get into the National Archives for something. So this man did work. This man
appreciate that.
One thing I want to address off the top, though, because someone will bring this up. When I said on Twitter, which I know, I need to break my habit, I never will. When I said I'm reading this book, wow, I understand why they didn't want it to get out. There's tons of research. I immediately got comments like, why would you read a book that lies about Harry and Meghan? Like, he clearly couldn't get his timeline right. And I was like, I read the book. Let me tell you something. Harry and Meghan are maybe a paragraph. They're barely discussed. In fact, one of the things he does say, which Amanda, you will feel very vindicated by this, is that the reason he doesn't think that a report has ever come out about Meghan Markle's bullying allegations is because they're afraid that there's even worse that could come out about people like Prince Andrew.
Give it to me.
Right there, girl. Right there, girl. Right there, girl. You did it. You did it. Because, that was an apodup.
Duh.
When Andrew Lowney writes that Prince Andrew got into a fight with Prince Harry in 2013, and it's not over Meghan. He says later there was words about Meghan. He's not saying in 2013. Just my own gripe is that it's wild to totally discount a book because you've heard that it gets something wrong. Now, I know people will bring up the fact that Prince Harry put out a statement that he didn't punch his
Right.
uncle, which
Right.
maybe he didn't. But also, maybe that's not something you want out there anyway, and you're going to put out a statement because it just isn't going with your whole vibe. But I will say, I think this book is really important because it actually looks at Prince Andrew's time as trade envoy, which is the most interesting thing to me, but also a little more background on how potentially he's paying for Royal Lodge right now. The thing about the book that I wish was different is the structure. It goes very chronological, and we spend a lot of time on Sarah, and my God, the level of outwardly grifting. Like, she had the Duchess originals line in America, which was a playoff of Charles. And I'm like, I cannot believe we're acting like anything Meghan and Harry do as non-working royals matters in context of all of this. It's not even comparable. And you just realize the trade envoy stuff was a disaster waiting to happen. He was literally made trade envoy because they made up a position for him in the Navy because they couldn't promote him and they had nowhere for him to go. So then they made him trade envoy, despite the fact people were like, this is probably not a good idea. Because
it's like making Edward VIII governor of the Bahamas or wherever he
they're
was.
like, we'll just send him there. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
I wish the last 100 pages of the book, I think, are the most important. And I wish we spent more time on that. Also, there was some slapdash editing going on here. There were some spelling errors and layout issues on Kindle, iPad that I kind of couldn't believe. But I know
he's trying not to get sued. Like, that was priority number one.
Yeah, like, and I know budgets are being slashed and the like corners are cut, but some of the stuff I was like, come on. The thing about this, and what I think more journalists should dig into, and he does talk about the symbiotic relationship between the royals and the press. And this is not a guy who appears to be an anti-monarchist. You know what I mean? And he does take effort to show all sides of Prince Andrew in situations, people who have positive experiences with him, people who have negative. He doesn't paint it as like all one way, but the facts and the figures and the way that this book really flies in the face of the idea of the monarchy being apolitical because of the way that we see time and time again that they get involved in the government in protecting Prince Andrew from any sort of investigation or any questions around what he's doing as trade envoy. Because what he does is he uses taxpayer money to fly, take helicopters, the most extravagant travel when a car ride would do. But he's entitled, so he's not going to do that, hence the book name, and tax on these business meetings for his own interests, especially in the Middle East, but just kind of plugs them in to these trips he's taking on behalf of UK trade. And the crazy thing is, when they finally get rid of him, which is not because of Epstein, but that could have been it, but because of his contacts with the Libyan regime and Gaddafi, they'd still make like another post for him to still keep doing this stuff. And it is just a reminder that there is so much more that people deserve to know about the royals, their finances, their business dealings, and the fact that the government is protecting Andrew and blocking any information about his time as a, government official, basically, is
in these positions that are tailor-made for him.
Is wild. I will say, I reached out to Andrew and I said, I have 10,000 questions because I'm annoyed.
You reached out to Prince Andrew?
Sorry, Andrew Lowney. No,
right,
I am
the
not
author of the book.
Not blonde or young enough.
He might talk to you. He agreed to the Emily Maitlis interview.
Oh, yeah, no. He actually got right back to me and said, oh, yeah, send me questions. So I sent him some questions because I really want to know what he sees, because he does write in here that he thinks the media has woken up to this stuff and is digging more, and actually thinks that Prince Andrew and Sarah, their stuff and their scandals could be what brings down the monarchy. Like, that's what he thinks. And I want to know more about that, but I also want to know how he feels like the press is doing things differently, because to tie it back to William and Kate and Camilla, what we learn in this book is that Middle Eastern governments and monarchies tend to respect princes and stuff more than France or other countries like that.
So if we're talking about like pay to play, they're going to go to royals for the biggest bang for their buck. Is that what like he kind of gets at?
Yeah, that this is a good way to get information. And to because royals are in the know, like they have access to information, and
if they're entitled, they might be willing to play ball.
And it's like, okay, then why aren't we investigating a little more
Yeah.
the yacht
Yeah.
vacations taken by William and Kate and Camilla? Were those
Ugh.
gifts? Were they gifts? And what in exchange for? What kind of like it makes me kind of think of William's relationship, especially with governments in the Middle East, just because that's where Prince Andrew did so much damage. And that's where
Supreme Court of the United States, Royal Family of Britain, no gift policy. Yeah.
please stop doing that. The other thing that it brings up that I didn't consider is that a lot of these trips to the Middle East,
Mm-hmm.
Prince Andrew brings Beatrice or Eugenie, and he lays out how Beatrice and Eugenie have a lot of dealings in the Middle East now and are regularly seen at these different business conferences.
And the wedding of the Jordanian. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And it made me think of, is it possible that allowing Beatrice and Eugenie to kind of come into the royal fold, because the media has kind of set up this
Pushed for it.
scenario where,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, this is perfect. They're younger. They can be a part of William's team, but they're not getting paid. Okay, but do their business entanglements impact
That's so
what they
interesting.
do in the royal family? And also, does it put the royal family or whoever at risk of information
Mm-hmm.
being given to these partners in other countries?
Yeah.
Like
How is that set up? Yeah.
how are we preventing another Prince Andrew? Is Prince Andrew an aberration or a symptom of something bigger?
Yeah. I would love to know if he set up a system so that Beatrice and Eugenie's like inheritance is tied up in these business deals. Like
There
where
are a few
does it
things.
end?
There are a few things in here, and I'd have to go back and look about setting up these trusts for the princesses. And there's
Wow.
this like sketchy bank that's set up and then like completely because it's dealing with like maybe laundered money. One thing I didn't know, and I don't know if you knew this, did you know that Fergie almost perished in 9?
Excuse me?
Yeah, she had offices in the Twin Towers and she was going for a meeting, but she was late.
Oh my God.
Isn't that crazy? But want to hear something gross?
Sure.
After
Giving me
9/11,
whiplash.
I know, after 9/11, she writes this book, this series of books
No.
called Red or Little Red or something. It's based on this red-haired rag doll that was found in in the rubble. And she writes a book and profits off of it. And the 9/11 Widows Foundation comes out and is like, "That's disgusting." He also
She didn't donate the money?
there are so many instances where they talk about how a certain amount is going to charity and stuff, and then it comes out
It never did.
that it never did, or they never received the money, or they only received some money. It's so sketchy. The other sketchy Fergie thing that's reported in here is that after Diana's death, reportedly, Fergie went to Hello Magazine and others and tried to shop around like, hey, you have a void left. You can't cover Diana anymore. Like, what about me? We can work off of a retainer. Girl, it's
Okay.
monstrous. It's monstrous stuff.
Not the time. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So
well,
I
might
honestly
be picking this up.
I recommend the book. I think it's good to add to our information and understanding of the royals. And, as with everything, take it with a grain of salt. But I think anything focusing on Prince Andrew should receive more attention.
would agree. I was just thinking as you were talking, the Epstein story. I love that that's back in the lexicon. I love that we are pushing back on that once again. But in a way, he might have been relieved when he was being asked about his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein and could come up with all of these obfuscations. And that's the word of the day, obfuscation.
Yeah, it is. It's a good one.
And excuses and alternative timelines because it precludes us from asking about his financial entanglements and his business deals and his trade envoy role.
Unfortunately, though,
In what world is the Jeffrey Epstein connection the lesser of all evils? Prince Andrew's.
I know. And then you realize, though, that like one of the reasons that Prince Andrew got involved with Epstein, or at least one of the reasons that's reported, is because Fergie had so many debts that they needed to pay them off. But also the number of times where Epstein, they go on vacation with the girls and Epstein. Like, honestly, reading about
He was at
Beatrice
their
and
birthday party or something.
one of their 18th birthday parties, reading about the people that Beatrice and Eugenie were brought around and the way they were just like flung across the globe depending on when Sarah wanted to go somewhere. I do feel bad for these children. I'm not going to lie.
Well, and now Eugenie in particular is so vocal about her anti-slavery collective that she works with. Like, is that a coincidence? I don't know.
Yeah, it's also interesting. Which one of them just moved out of the country. They don't even live in the country.
Eugenie and Jack live part-time in Portugal at the very least because he's developing like luxury homes there, rumored to be where Harry and Meghan bought a home. So they have homes in this development together. So yeah, they at least like live some of the time in Portugal. Beatrice and Edo are also, I think, international, but I don't know. Like they both still have home bases in London.
So
Yeah. Is it
again,
not?
it's a conversation that will not end. But in the future, if I start a book, I'll try not to race through it because I didn't sleep a lot last night.
No, you're okay. I just thought it was funny. I was like, okay, let's introduce. Oh no, you're done with the book. Okay, great.
I was just flying high. The last 100 pages were what got me. Because in the middle, I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I get that Fergie is hella corrupt. I kind of want to move on to Andrew.
Mhm.
And then the last 100 pages, I'm like, whoa, every single thing I'm underlining. I'm
I take it
writing in the
back.
notes like WTF.
Yeah.
So
Huh.
yeah, it was a good book.
All right.
For our final segment, we're calling this What?
I like
And
that you.
That's from Amanda.
I'm so glad you liked this idea.
I loved it because there are times where there are headlines that are not worth diving into the story,
Yes.
but the headline makes you go, what? And this
Huh?
is one of them. Huh? So this is from The Express.
Of course it is. They have the best headlines.
Really. Meghan and Harry hijacking Christmas after new Netflix deal. Expert.
What?
Hijacking Christmas.
That's in quotations.
It is, because an expert says it. They have hijacked Christmas. From who? My guess is Kate. My guess is Kate and her Christmas
I
Carol
see.
service, because
I
the
see.
two cannot coexist. There's only one Christmas thing that is allowed, and it's Kate's caroling.
Did you see who the expert is?
I didn't, because this was a what? Who is? Oh my God!
Kinsey Schofield.
Stop it!
She says, I'm not sure how Meghan is going to elevate Christmas. I'm sure it will be beautifully shot. It will be schmaltzy. It will be commercialized. Okay, whatever.
I mean, I will
She
say
then went on to claim the Sussex's Christmas show would instead hijack the birth of Jesus Christ in order for Meghan to sell another bottle of rosé. So now we're indignant on behalf of Jesus Christ.
Incredible. Won't anyone think of Jesus? They'll forget the meaning of Christmas.
Stellar work.
I will say, in her defense, she was a former event planner that was on a P. Diddy event planning show on E! Or whatever. So, I mean, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe we just leave that there full.
You know what this made me think of? I was
What?
like, what next? Are they going to claim that Santa's black? Do you remember that Megyn Kelly thing where she said on Fox News, Santa is white? It's like, Santa's not real. Santa's
St.
not
Nicholas
real.
was also like from the Mediterranean?
Okay, if we're going into St. Nicholas, maybe that. But it's guys, I usually don't encourage watching
St.
Megyn.
Nicholas was Turkish. Come on.
He probably would have done business with Prince Andrew.
All right. Okay, that's it. Once we reach Santa Claus doing business with Prince Andrew, it is time to wrap up the episode.
Cut.
Thank you so much for listening, and a huge shout out to our Patreon press secretaries. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for quietly sourcing royal properties for us to make our home base. We promise to let you be live-in staff if we ever reach that point.
Yeah.
That includes Molly, Nikki, Lulu, and Jessica, and of course, our crown jewel.
Sir Christopher of the Order of the Garter of the Baby's Breath.
Of Meredith's heart.
Of Meredith's heart.
Thank you so much for your support. If you would like your own Patreon press secretary shout out, there's a tier for that over on patreon.com/offwiththeirheadlines. You can also get bonus content, early and ad-free episodes, as well as community discussions and mailbag weighing in privileges. It'll be soon time to source questions for our fall mailbag, which is insane.
Coming up.
So head on over to the Patreon if you would like to weigh in there in our community. Anything else?
That's all.
That's all, folks.
Hopefully news won't break after we finish recording.
It better not.
We can't deal with it.
No, it's time to draw a line somewhere. If you post news after 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, it's not
being covered. We're done. We've had it. Putting our foot down. We're doing things our own way on our own terms. Forget etiquette.
We're downsizing the episode in vibes only.
We're downsizing our stress.
This is true. All right. Thanks so much for listening, guys, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.